When Möngke Khan fell on the slopes of the Sichuan in 1259, the world stopped breathing. Across mountains and deserts, riders carried the news. Tengri, the eternal blue sky, had turned his face away. In Kaiping, Kublai, he heard the whispers first. He was surrounded by Chinese engineers and scholars. He crowned himself the Great Khan. But far to the north, in Karakoram, Berke, Kublai's brother, lifted the spirit banner and claimed the same title. One empire, two sons. The steppe had no room for both. Erik struck first. His horsemen swept through Shimul Utu like a lawnmower cutting grass. Kublai's lines broke, wagons burning, banners collapsing into the mud. But Kublai learned fast. He tightened his grip on the granaries of northern China. He starved his brother's army of grain and turned famine into a weapon. By 1264, Karakoram was a grave. Men boiled leather. Mothers ground bark into flour. Erik surrendered, not to mercy, but to hunger. And while brothers bled each other dry, cousins tore the West apart. Hülegü Khan, destroyer of Baghdad, sat on a Persian throne. Berke, newly devout in Islam, he swore a holy war for the caliph that Hülegü had murdered. Their banners met on the frozen Terek River. The ice cracked. Horses and men screamed. Whole regiments vanished beneath the icy black water. 20, maybe 30,000 dead. Family against family. Faith against faith. The empire stretched from Korea to the Black Sea, but its heart had stopped. Every yurt whispered betrayal. Every caravan carried famine. Peasants in Rus paid tribute twice, once to Berke and once to Hülegü, and still starved. Tell me that don't sound fucking familiar. Superpowers arguing while fucking people are dying of hunger. Leaders hoarding wealth while their own people crumble. We call it modern policy. They called it divine right. Same disease, different fucking century. Kublai believed he could save the world by wearing two crowns. Great Khan and Emperor of China. He built palaces in Khanbalik, minted coins, listened to Confucian advisors. But to the old warriors, he was a traitor in silk. To the Chinese scholars, still a barbarian on a throne. He stood between two civilizations, and neither one accepted him. That's the curse of conquest. You either control the world, or lose your soul trying. And Kublai chose administration over honor, bureaucracy over blood. Meanwhile, Berke's conversion to Islam turned politics into piety. His imams told him that Hülegü was a blasphemer, that his war was righteous. And Hülegü, sitting in the Ilkhanate, answered with fire and siege weapons. Between them lay villages burned twice, and children sold 3 fucking times. You can see the echo. Every time ideology eats empathy, we repeat this. You can change the names. Cold War, Culture War, Click War. But the body count stays the same. Rewarding rage instead of reason. We used to ride for fame. Now we scroll for validation. Erik Boke starved for grain. We starve for attention. Different century, same hunger. In Persia, Hülegü's court grew rich and anxious. He dreamed of the faces he drowned in Baghdad. He built observatories to measure the heavens and astrologers to measure his fate. Every comet looked like retribution. Meanwhile, Berke prayed. A man convinced God spoke only his language. That's the most dangerous kind of certainty. The Holy One. Kaidu, grandson of Ogedai, rose in Central Asia, in the Chagatai Khanate. He was a ghost of legitimacy, a prince of the old line, and he hated Kublai's Chinese robes. He spoke to every dissident chief and said the sky has too many colors, but only one truth, and men believed him. The Mongol world was splintered now. 4 khanates, 4 faiths, 4 languages of authority. The Golden Horde turned Muslim. The Ilkhanate flirted with Buddhism, then Islam. The Chagatai line sank into tribal chaos. And Kublai's Yuan dynasty in China pretended the map was all united. It's what we do. We draw lines on maps when they mean nothing. We treat illusion as policy. We tweet unity while living division. From the Caucasus to the Yellow Sea, the world was littered with empty barns and broken alliances. By 1265, more Mongols had died fighting each other than Europe ever killed in defense. That's the real cost of a civil war. Not an enemy from the outside, but self-inflicted exhaustion. The steppe had gone quiet. Not peace, just silence after too much thunder. Kublai sat amongst scrolls and tax rolls, convinced he could write order into the wind. But Kaidu was already moving. He rode out of the Ili Valley with banners of gray felt, men hardened by years of famine. His riders didn't shout their war songs anymore. They muttered them, low and vengeful, like prayers turned sour. For every province Kublai organized, Kaidu tore down a trade post. For every monastery Kublai funded, Kaidu burned a granary. Their war wasn't about maps. It was about memory. Who still remembered the open sky? And there, somewhere between the Altai and the Oxus, a merchant whispered the new math of empire. He said a coin in China is worth less than a rumor in the steppe. He was right. Currency was collapsing, and rumor was priceless. The Silk Road, once the jugular of civilization, was now a scar. Caravans carried fewer silks and more soldiers. Cities that had grown rich off Mongol protection now built walls against them. Trade became extortion. Faith became propaganda. This right here is where the world learned that information is the new empire. Back then it was word of mouth. Now it's the feed. We used to ride horses. Now we ride headlines. And the people who control the stories, they're the new cons. Hop on social media long enough and you'll see the same old war. We think we're civilized because we fight with words instead of arrows. But tell me, when was the last time you saw mercy as a trending topic? In 1270, Kaidu struck again at the Talas River. Kublai sent his nephew, Nomukhan, to stop him. The young prince rode south with 10,000 men and never came home. Captured, imprisoned, ransomed, and forgotten. Kublai's dynasty still stood on paper, but his bloodline was bleeding into the sand. Meanwhile, the West burned slower. Berke died without heirs. Hülegü drank himself into fever. The Ilkhanate splintered between converts and cynics. And Persia, the jewel of the Conquest, slipped from their hands into the waiting arms of new dynasties. The wolves had eaten too well, but now they were starving. The empire still existed, in theory. Maps show it as one color, but maps lie. Under the paint, the parchment was cracking. And that's fucking politics today in a nutshell, isn't it? Maps, charts, polls, all pretending stability while everything inside fractures. We build coalitions on hashtags. We call echo chambers communities. And we measure legitimacy by engagement. Kublai measured his by how many bureaucrats he could hire. Different tools, same illusion. The Yuan court had its own version of influencers, poets, and chroniclers paid to praise the dynasty. They wrote that the blue sky favored Kublai, but on the ground, famine and rebellion said otherwise. When truth serves a paycheck, it stops serving the people. You can feel that today. Every sponsored post, every partisan clip, every carefully branded authentic message, that's just empire fucking PR. We're all living in someone's curated feed. And, just like the Mongols, we mistake amplification for power. In 1280, Kublai faced another revolt in Yunnan, another flood on the Yellow River. He sent envoys to Europe, to Persia, to the Mamelukes, and most never returned. Communication broke before the empire did. That's the first sign of collapse, when you can't hear each other anymore because you're too busy shouting. That's us, a planet full of voices, none of them listening. By the time Kaidu died in 1301, the war had lasted 40 years. An entire generation born and buried under the same war drums. They called it the era of two Khans, but history calls it exhaustion. When I look at this moment in history, I see the same patterns pulsing through our veins. Superpowers obsessed with image. Parties treating facts like flexible banners. Media ecosystems that reward hysteria over humility. We are replaying the Mongol collapse in high definition. We laugh at history books, or we denounce them while we're starring in the sequel. We have the same blind faith in endless growth, the same refusal to share power, the same addiction to spectacle. They had minstrels and scribes. We have 24-hour news cycles and meme accounts. They killed for thrones. We cancel for clout. Either way, empathy loses. And racism, bigotry, denial, those are just the modern tribe makers. People terrified to admit their own fear, so they project it. Hate is camouflage for insecurity. The Mongols cloaked fear in divine destiny. We cloak it in patriotism, sarcasm, or just joking. But make no mistake, ignorance is not courage. Cruelty is not conviction. Pretending facts don't exist doesn't make you free. It makes you fragile. If you cannot handle truth, you are not strong enough to lead, to love, or to last. The wolves of the steppe tore each other apart because they forgot they were kin. We are doing the same thing with wires instead of swords. Every hate-filled post, every false headline, every willful blindness is another bite out of our shared body. The empire that conquered half the world died whispering to itself. If we keep mistaking noise for wisdom, we'll end the same way. History isn't prophecy, it's a mirror. And the reflection isn't flattering. That's it for this episode. Stay tuned for the next one. If you like the show, consider hitting that follow. And slide over to our Patreon. Anything helps, even $1. Alright, take care.